you guys, welcome back to my channel for another video on the how I do fill in the blank playlist on my channel. I've been working very hard at creating these videos for you guys. So if you're new to homeschooling, I hope that they're super helpful to you to just hear from an experienced homeschooler like myself who's been doing this for 7 years now on how we do specific things in our homeschool. I was looking for information like this when I first started homeschooling and I could not find it. And so I don't know why it's taken me so long to make a playlist like this, but the idea hit me and I said I need to do this. So here I am. There are quite a few videos on this playlist already. All of these video ideas have come from you guys, my viewers who watch my videos, who follow on Instagram, and also the comments of other videos on this playlist. So if you are watching this and you're asking yourself, well, I wonder how Ashlee does a specific thing in homeschooling, like today's video, field trips, please post it down below. And then if you're someone who wants to see that video, like their comment, because if I see that there's a lot of people that want me to make a video on something, then I will write that onto my list. So today we're going to be talking about how I do field trips in my homeschool, and I am just going to go ahead and say my disclaimer. I'm just sharing what we've done. I'm not telling you to do this or saying that if you don't do this, I am better than you in any way. I'm just sharing what we've done. So I'm gonna also speak in the years of normality. So, you know, the last year and a half-ish have been slightly different than usual. And so field trips honestly were like the only thing that when the world shut down, really kind of affected my homeschool, the library closing and no field trips. That was really it for us. And so as far as like homeschooling goes. So I'm going to speak to this as if it were normal times. So the way that I have always done field trips generally has been I base my field trips off of whatever science unit we're doing. So I just find that that's the easiest way to do it. And of course, I would love to be able to take a field trip that associates with, you know, a history lesson we've done. And we've been able to do that for a few select things. But generally science is, you know, where you can pull a lot of field trip ideas from. So if you've been watching me for a long time, because it's been about 4 years now since we were in a homeschool group, that was actually the primary reason why I joined a homeschooling group, was because it is true that it's easier to orchestrate a field trip with a group of homeschoolers rather than just like one family. If you call, you know, a grocery store and you want a tour of it and how they do things, you know, they might do it for just you, but it's much more realistic for companies to offer field trips when it's for a group. So that was really the primary motivation and why I joined a homeschooling group. And so for the first 2 to 3 years of my homeschooling journey, I really didn't have to plan field trips because that was done by the group that we were in. So that was actually one really nice thing about being in a group, was that I didn't really have to plan them. Now, that also meant that there were some field trips that we didn't really care to go on, but you know, or they didn't really go with what we were learning about, but we still went on them anyway as learning experiences, and my kids were little then, so I had a lot more time for fluff and, you know, just going wherever and calling that school for the day. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do that. I'm just saying as my kids have gotten older, that is not really gonna work all that often. We still do that sometimes, but much less than when they were all second grade and under. So that's how I did field trips before. Now, once we were not a part of a homeschooling group, 2 of my other friends who also homeschool, we kind of got together and we said, well, what if you do this, and what if you do that, and what if you do this? And so for the first year and a half probably of us leaving the homeschooling group, my friend was the one who planned field trips for us. And so she just would hear, I think, word of mouth or see something on social media that looked cool from a friend in the area. And then she was really good at, you know, scheduling a few field trips for the year. So it was definitely not all of the time, which was a-okay for me because I can't have my high schooler, you know, out looking at farm animals and calling that school every single day. Now, every now and then I can totally do that, but not every day. So our family's needs have changed as my kids have gotten older, and so field trips have also changed. So that's what we did, and that worked really well for a while, and then, you know, the whole world closed down. And so honestly, the last year of our homeschool, since everything really shut down, we have not gone any specific field trips. Now, my husband and I have taken our kids on many outings where there's been educational opportunity. And so I think it's important to not add like that extra layer of pressure onto yourself as a parent where you're like, well, if we're not doing a specific field trip for every science unit, then I'm just failing as a homeschooling mom. Because when you're a homeschooling parent, any place you take your kids, you could call a field trip. I mean, really, if your kids go with you to the post office, here's the post office, guys. Look, that's where the mail goes in. That's where the mail goes out. You buy stamps over there. You know, you could totally, I'm like joking around, so don't take offense to that. But really, I don't think it's something we need to put a ton of pressure on ourselves as homeschooling parents to do like field trips, because our kids come with us places all of the time. And so they're learning all of the time, and kids can learn from going anywhere. So we've gone to many national parks. They've learned new skills like kayaking, rock climbing, like we do things all the time. So you could call that a field trip. We just call it living life. So honestly, this past year, we haven't done a lot of designated field trips as a part of like our homeschool days, because there just have been so many restrictions and limitations, and it's been okay, honestly. I don't feel like my kids have not been able to enjoy learning as much or missed out on something because we couldn't go to a dairy factory or something like that. That stuff is fun and it's great if you have it, but it's also not like essential in my opinion. So anyways, that's how we've done field trips in the past. That's how we've done field trips the last year. And quite honestly, moving forward, I do hope that there are some opportunities for us to do some designated field trips during the school year. Again, I like to pull those things from our science unit. So I just look at what science unit we're doing, and I think to myself, oh, this would be a really good idea, or that would be a really good idea. So, you know, we were doing like ecosystems from The Good and the Beautiful. And so there's actually, I'm going to take my kids on a few different outings, so I guess you could call those field trips, to view different ecosystems. So like the wetland area, a pond, that kind of thing. So I always pull like our field trips or our outings from our science units. Now we finished space, and I would have loved to live in an area where we could have visited NASA. That would have been awesome, but that just wasn't feasible. And also, like, I wish we could have gone to the planetarium. That was closed. So, you know, we've just made do, but I generally will pull field trips from my science units, and I would say I personally would do 1 per science unit, 2 at most. So because again, I've got older kids and I can't justify them not having, you know, time to complete their actual like subject work for the sake of being, you know, out, calling it homeschooling. Because then, you know, they're behind on days, and so it's kind of a juggling act. So that's where I'm at with field trips. I hope you guys found this helpful or informative. I do not think it's a make or break situation in a homeschool. And I also don't think you measure your success by how many field trips you take. And I also know that my kids have learned a ton without going on field trips. I think it's a nice addition when you can bring something to life for your kids, but I also don't think you need to feel like bad if you're not doing it enough. And then also I get the ideas from our science units most of the time. And then another thing I just want to mention, like outside of school days. So anytime we travel anywhere, for any reason, I'm always looking for anything historical, anything cool. And so this is just a perfect example of this happening. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we went down to Yuma, Arizona for a swim meet for my oldest son. And our hotel was in a certain location where the railroad ran through. Well, it just so happens that like when that happened, we had just done a history lesson on the railroad, the first transcontinental railroad. And so I saw this like model train over there in the railroad tracks, and so we just went over and checked it out, and it actually ended up being something super relevant to what we had just learned. So that's like another tip I have for field trip stuff, is like, don't box yourself into Monday through Friday school. Anytime you're going anywhere with your kids, look for learning experiences that they can have, and you might be surprised that sometimes they'll be like a pleasant surprise of something that you just talked about, and here I am in the town. And then even like later on, another example of that is back in December, we went to Kentucky to visit the Ark Encounter. While we were in Kentucky, things were still pretty closed down, and so it was really difficult to find open things, but we were just sharing information with our kids about the general area. So we wanted to go to Boonesboro, which is where Daniel Boone built his initial fort. And so we were actually hoping to go there when we were there. It was like 3 hours away, and it was kind of open and kind of closed, so we ended up not going. But the kids remembered us talking about it when we were there and showing them pictures and things. So this year, when we were doing a history lesson on Daniel Boone, they remembered exactly what that looked like and everything like that, and that we were really close to it in Kentucky. And so we learn all of the time, my kids learn all of the time, and so anytime you're going to travel anywhere, look for educational opportunities wherever you're going, because you might be surprised what pops up. And even sometimes, like what happened to me when we went down to Yuma, Arizona for a swim meet, here we find ourselves with a railroad track with an old modeled car, and it was free, and they like got to look in it, and it was really cool. So we looked at the tracks because they talked about like how that first happened and how they used to be versus how they are now. And so it was just a totally random, really cool homeschool mom geek out moment. So I hope you guys can take away from that what you will. But if you're traveling ever, anywhere, chances are there's something that you can teach your kids or show them by going there. So we count that as field trips too in homeschool. That's what I'm trying to say. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. If you have a suggestion for this playlist, drop it down below, because I'll be coming back to get more ideas. I hope you guys are doing well and enjoying all of the videos that have been coming out, and I will see you guys in my next one really soon. Bye guys. I see we're out of time. I guess no one's to blame, nobody crossed the line.